Good evening and welcome to the third part of this week's plan that I had for discussing a few things around education. So on Wednesday, I started with thanking most of the educators that I know of and also my school teachers. And yesterday, I had a small bit of information sharing around the new National Education Policy 2020. And today, as a part of the final one with this series, I am going to be giving a few insights, or should I say, have a small information session with you around boards. And what do you look forward to when you think about boards? Boards, basically, the main role of boards in any country, every country have educational boards, and the main role of these boards is to ensure that they bring the basic level of education that is required for children as per their age. So if you look at, let's refer to the Indian boards. So if you look at the Indian boards over here, you will see that every grade has certain bits of topics or subjects as per their age, and that is what is taught to them year on year. So these plans are made in general by educational institutions like a national education policy, and then it is brought into a classroom certain via mediums through the boards. So why do we have so many different boards? Well, each board has pretty much the same objective of bringing quality and valuable education to the child. But each of the boards also have a certain pattern that they would like to follow so that they can distinguish themselves from the other one. Now, can an individual come and pick up a board by themselves and have one board of their own? Maybe. As of today, people are not doing that. We have enough of boards already, and I don't think people are looking for anything different right now. But let's now see what are the various boards we have and how it is taken through here in India. Well, 3 Indian boards are very famous, and there is one which has been around for a very long time, but people somehow have not considered it very well. So we will discuss these 3 Indian boards plus this one other board. So we actually have 4 Indian boards. One is the state board. 2 is the central board, which is also called CBSE. Then we have something that's called as ICSE. Then we also have something else that is called as NIOS. Okay. Now, what does the state board stand for? SSC, which is State Secondary State Certificate. Okay, so that's what SSC stands for. Then you have the Central Board Secondary Certificate, which is CBSE. Then you have ICSE, which is Certificate for Secondary Education. Again, it's an Indian board. Then you also have NIOS, which is National Institute for Open Studies. Now, SSC, CBSE and ICSE, these boards have certain rules which are required to be followed, and the government has a certain requirement that needs to be attached to these boards. Simply put, if you are going to get registered in a brick and mortar system, which is have a proper building, have classrooms, have laboratories and things like that, then the first thing you need to do is register that school with the local authorities, the state authorities, and then you also after that register the school with the particular board through which you want to conduct the 10th examination or the 12th examination. So the major role that boards are going to play is to make sure that the medium of certification is taken care of. Okay, so when you reach a grade 9 or grade 10, you are getting the child to prepare for a board examination, which is a standard format of examination done on a public basis. So this is whether it's a private school or a public school, based on the board that you are registered with, you will have to give that particular exam as per that board's pattern. most of the government schools are registered with the state board. So a state of Maharashtra will have SSC, a state of Rajasthan will also have SSC. Similarly, all states will have an SSC board because that's a state board. So apart from some subjects which are common, the language subjects are different as per the different boards. Now for CBSE, which is the central board, across India, the board functions in the same way with respect to the choice of subjects you get, the choice of language subjects you can take. Similarly, it is with ICSE as well, where across India, wherever you're going to an ICSE school, the choice of subjects and the choice of languages are going to be similar. NIOS, on the other hand, is an online platform. Now, NIOS allows an individual candidate. Okay, so I need not actually go to a brick and mortar school, to a physical school, but if I am a homeschool child or an unschooled child or a child who is not actually going to a particular school to study, I can register with NIOS, National Institute for Open Studies, and still have to select a few subjects there which are similar to the other 3 boards of India, and I can give my exam through NIOS, and everything is online. The application is online, my documents have to be uploaded online. I can also select a particular center which is close to my house and listed in the NIOS website, and I can go over there and give my examination. If I have any doubts or I need some help with certain subjects, that close by a center which is registered for me on the NIOS portal, I can visit that school, take help from teachers over there. My laboratory and other needs for examination can be taken care of from that school which is on that portal under my name. Now, why is NIOS not as famous as the many other schools? It's quite generic because in the sense, all these physical schools are something that people look forward to, right? When your child wants to get into a school, you want to get into a social group where children are getting together, they are having common things to do, and they are basically learning in a certain group, all right? NIOS, on the other hand, allows children to not have to go to a physical school, but study on their own, hire private tutors, and give the examination not online. You only register online. The examination you have to go to another center and give. Now, NIOS is something that I am extremely fascinated about because a child gets to select their choice of subjects from over 50 options. Okay. Now, unlike an SSC, CBSE or ICSE board, where whether I like it or not as a student, I have to give math as an exam, I have to select science, I have to select history, geography. It's not a choice I have to pick those subjects because they are under that banner. So if I am going to give my exam through a CBSE 10th or an ICSE 10th or a SSC 10th, I do not get a choice of subjects. These 10 or 11 standard subjects, I have to study for them whether they are within my skill set or not, and I have to make sure that I am getting good percentage out of that. However, on the other hand, NIOS excellently supports children who do have other choices in life. For example, children who are sports persons, who have picked up sports as an early passion for themselves in life. Or if children have to travel quite a bit with their parents and going between one school and to another school becomes really difficult for that parent. Or even a lot of expat children, children who have come from another country and they are staying in this country maybe just for a year or so. There are a lot of expats also who look to select NIOS because NIOS allows the student to select 6 to 7 subjects based on their skill set. Isn't that wonderful? It's unfortunately a very poorly graded board simply because it has not been explored enough. Parents have this notion कि board है तो CBSE बोर्ड है, ICSE बोर्ड है या SSE बोर्ड है, नहीं तो और कोई बोर्ड नहीं है. That is the amount of information that parents typically carry. But nahi, there are few more boards. Amongst the Indian, there is one more which is called NIOS, and it is a beautifully managed platform, and it is one of the, I would say, exhaustive board which actually caters to today's needs. They have subjects like business studies, they have economics, they have math if you want to take, they have science, they have history, geography, and so many languages that you can take up. You can even take up art as one of your main subjects in NIOS 10th. You can take up plumbing, you can take up carpentry, you can take up so many vocational subjects as well. Which, unfortunately, looking towards a child's skill set does not become a part of SSE, CBSE, ICSE. Okay. Now, although there are extracurricular activities that are coming under the banner with the CBSE, ICSE, SSE boards, these extracurricular activities do not take weightage. Okay, you cannot give an examination in that and actually do very well and that be considered as one of your scoring subjects in your mark sheet. No, that's not going to happen. However, on the other hand, if you're going through NIOS, then you can take vocational subjects which are going to be shown in your mark sheet as your skill set. So trust me, as NEP starts coming in and really starts to spread its wings, you will see more and more people looking to consider NIOS because NIOS is already beautifully blending with the thought process of the new education policy 2020. Now, apart from these 4 Indian boards, there are 2 more boards that people usually look to consider, which is the IB, International Baccalaureate, or the Cambridge board, which is IGCSE. Now, these are international boards. Now, what is so special about these boards? Now, one thing that I personally feel is special about these boards is that these boards are working under the platform or the network or the framework of integration. These subjects that they have, they are beautifully integrated and they are also experiential learning, where you do not just look at question answers and study. There is a topic that is put across in the class and children are allowed to explore that topic and study. Okay, so these are the 2 international boards. Now, why only these 2 international boards are like that? Well, isn't it sensible enough to understand that internationally this is how teaching is done? IB is one of the largest international board. IGCSE is a Cambridge board. And this is how education is done everywhere. I still fail to understand why India is still not able to adopt this kind of education, where exploration is allowed in a classroom. Children are allowed to ask questions. Children are given project-based home assignments. Instead of simply writing question and answers 2 times ghar pe likho home assignment, 3 times ghar pe likho, and then children are like, oh no, my hands are paining, I don't want to write anymore, and gradually they start to move out of the liking for the subject itself, simply because I have mentioned this long ago once in one of my talks. अगर मुझे करेला, bitter gourd, which is what it is called in English, पसंद नहीं आता, just because I eat it every day, I am not going to start liking it, right? My body is already rejecting that taste. How can I start liking it just because I eat it every day? I'm going to repel it more, isn't it? Some children just don't like bhindi, lady's finger, or some children just don't like aubergine, bangan. But just because you feed it to them every day, they are not going to start liking it, isn't it? So when children are already complaining that I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, who is going to take the responsibility to sit back and think or understand why they are not liking it, instead of forcing them to better accept it whether they like it or not? Now that's not a nice life skill to teach our children, at least in today's times. We as parents had to go through this in our times because there wasn't so much of revolution that had happened in the education system at that time. But this I'm talking about 30-40 years ago. A lot has improved because more and more psychologists have started getting into education. More and more counselors are around helping children with education. Teachers' courses are also aligned with a reasonable amount of psychology. But if children are going to be forced to do things, it's not really going to work in their favor. And in the end, it's not going to work in the favor of the education system as well. So the Indian boards, which are SSE, ICSE, CBSE and NIOS, are the 4 Indian boards. Then you have IB and IGCSE, which are the international boards. Now, international boards, usually parents have the notion that it is quite expensive. Now think about it. If teachers have to take the effort to get through explorative classrooms, it is going to be a little expensive. Okay? If teachers have to take extra time to make sure that the topics that they are putting across in the class is going through all children across in a similar manner, it is going to take extra efforts from children. The evaluation mechanism that international boards use is not to demean the child, not to put down the child that you didn't know this, you didn't know that, but they explore the answers given by the children during their examination, and the teacher has the free hand to select whether this can be accepted as an answer or not, because children are allowed to think and put across their thoughts the way they feel it can be expressed. And when it has to come to expressing and answering, not all of us will have the same sentences when we are going to express an answer. However, on the other hand, when you have the Indian boards, whatever is in the textbook, if the teacher doesn't find those phrases or those answers in the answer paper, it's not going to be very well accepted. Okay, so this is a major difference that you're going to have between Indian boards and international boards. Now that NEP is going to come in, it is trying to bridge this gap. It is trying to get the Indian boards above the level at which they are and try to merge it somewhere with the international boards and let people know that this is how it should be done. If you read NEP in detail, you will realize that they talk a lot about exploration, giving a free hand to the child to learn, going as per their pace, integrated learning. These are all a part of international boards already. And we are now only going to try and see how much time we are going to take to shift the Indian boards to get into that level. Okay. Now, my question that a few people have asked me, as always, I am going to be answering them. Question paper patterns. Are there any question paper patterns from grade 1 to grade 8? Because 9 and 10 is going to be, coming under the boards. So, from grade 1 to grade 8, are there any question paper patterns? Now, first of all, as per Indian boards, children are not supposed to be giving exams. Okay. And that's why they came up with the thought that even if you're going to do some evaluation, then let's not fail them. That should not happen. So let's not fail them was actually supposed to be kept in mind as the teacher's job role to ensure that whatever is taught in the class, the child is learning it well. Unfortunately, that is not how it is happening. Whatever is being taught in the class, with the number of children that we have in a class, doesn't get into the child really, and the child ends up spending like 6 hours in a school max, and then coming home and again spending another 2-3 hours in tuitions. So basically they are bringing work from the office, and then they are practicing work from home even after you've gone to office. So basically whatever their parents have been doing, that they work in the office, then they come home and work from home also, children are also practicing the same logic. Now they really don't have time for socialization if they are going to study in the school for 5-6 hours and come home and again go for tuitions. I still wonder why a bunch of parents don't stand up and ask the schools, why am I paying you when My child is spending so much time with you in school and then again coming back, and I am paying further to another tuition teacher who may be qualified, not qualified. Nobody really checks the qualification. I'm sorry, I'm being blunt and honest. Nobody checks the qualification of tuition teachers. But I am available. I can give tuitions. Parents send the child, and ultimately what happens is homeworks khatam ho jate hain. But what about the foundation? What about the concept that the child had to learn? Practice is happening. But what about making sure that the concept of the topic has been put through? This was supposed to happen in the classroom. Now, if I went to an IB board, this is happening in the classroom because this is a planner of the IB board that the concept has to be taught. Somehow, although the planner of the Indian boards very clearly states that concepts have to be harped upon, the execution is not happening that way. Hence, the board is suffering. Hence, the children are suffering. Hence, the portion is only getting completed without the child actually understanding the concepts. And this concept not understanding comes in effect only when they get to 5th, 6th, 7th grade, because when the foundations of 1, 2, 3, 4 weren't strong, the 5th, 6th and 7th starts to dwindle. And then although the child was getting, in the top 10 ranks in the classroom from grade 1 to 4, when they come to 5th, the logical reasoning kicks in because of the age, because of the topics, and when logical reasoning is not answered, they start to lose interest in the subject. Okay, so basically coming back to the question, are there question paper patterns? No, there are no question paper patterns. Evaluation is based on how the school would like to conduct it, and it is up to the school to decide what they want to make as their question paper pattern, whether they want to keep it as 20 marks paper, 30 marks paper, 50 marks paper. All that is dependent upon the school, because there is no hard and fast rule that they have to give an exam. All right. Now coming to the books that the boards have to use. Now the books that the boards have to use are left to the boards to decide, left to the schools to decide. The boards do have a set pattern that needs to be taught in the class. Okay, so for example, a grade 3 will have these certain topics that have to be taught, whether it is in SST or whether it is in math or whether it is in science or English grammar. Even literature books are not defined. The school has the choice to pick up the literature books, whether it is in English or Hindi or Marathi. The school can choose which literature book they want. But the board has defined these are the grammar topics that need to be executed in this particular grade. Now the grammar topics get executed, but what about the manner in which it has to be executed? If it is going to be done as per rote learning, then children are going to be repelled by it. But if it is done in a creative manner, in a conceptual learning manner, children will definitely like it. So coming to the question, are there any books, pattern which needs to be followed? No specific books are required to be followed. The school has a free hand to make the selection for the books that they want to use in the classroom. However, the topics are already mentioned and these topics have to be put across. Now coming to the topics, the next point comes topics across boards. Now there is a weird thought process between parents that ICSE is more difficult than CBSE, or CBSE is more applicable for an engineering student, or an SSE is pretty much of no value and stuff like that. These are all just rubbish conversation. There is nothing to prove it. Once upon a time, Mumbai, which is even today the financial capital of India, only and only had SSE boards. Today, with the marketing of CBSE and ICSE, schools also have CBSE and ICSE in them. So when I studied from Mumbai, when it used to be called Bombay, most of us, 80% of us, studied in SSE schools. I too have studied in SSE schools. And in no way has this been detrimental to anything to do with my career. I have gone ahead and done my college well. I have done my post-graduation quite well. If I had an opportunity to go to an international university, there wouldn't have been a problem provided I cleared the common entrance exams. Because even then you needed the common entrance exams to be cleared. Even today you need that. You call it TOEFL, you call it CAT, you call it whatever you want. If you have to go to international universities, just your passing certificate from a particular country, irrespective of it being India or any other country, is not enough. Whichever country you want to go to, you have to clear the requirement or the entrance exam of that country. You have to clear the entrance exam of that university that you have to go and study, irrespective of your marks. So I can even be an SSC or a NIOS student and still apply for an international board. Nobody can stop me from doing that. So it is really silly when parents say that a particular board really seals the deal for an international education or for a higher grade education. No, there is nothing of that sort. There are SSC and NIOS students who are excellent lawyers, who are top lawyers, or also excellent engineers. There are ICSE students who are entrepreneurs. There are CBSE students who are say fashion designers. It really did never matter. And it is not going to matter, because what matters is not the board which you are going to give your exam through. What matters is what you have understood when you were studying for the topics that you were studying. Even today, let me ask all these parents who are here or even who will be viewing this, how often has your education been halted because you did not score well in your 10th and 12th? Maybe a particular college that you were looking for, you did not get through because they had a certain cutoff percentage. But that did not stop your education, or that did not stop your career movement. That was equal for everybody. So boards only are a medium for people to give exams. Boards are only a medium for the board examination. When you have to go in for your higher studies, whether it is doctorate or fashion or makeup or hair or engineering or any architecture, anything of your choice, you have entrance exams for that particular college and you have to pass those entrance exams. For example, I'll give you mine. When I finished my BCom from Bombay and I wanted to do my MBA, okay, and even today MBA you can do through Bombay University. So I had done my MBA through Bombay University. The Bombay University saw that I have passed my BCom. It really did not matter whether I got a first class or a distinction or a second class. I was assigned a particular college through which I wanted to do my MBA with Bombay University. That college had to make sure that we applicants are giving a written test for the common entrance exam. Plus, there was a GD, a group discussion. And no matter what marks we got in our CET, our group discussion was the defining factor. So how much we could conduct ourselves in that GD was the defining factor for our admission, isn't it? So I felt that really the marks did not matter. Ultimately, how I spoke over there is what mattered. And those who did not speak up well, irrespective of them having higher grades, did not get through their admission in that college. They may have gotten through another college. But this is what matters. So marks is not everything. Boards is not everything. Okay. Now, parents who say that this board is better than the other board. How often has any parent actually visited a bookstore and compared textbooks? Okay. Textbooks don't come from a particular board. Let me be very clear on that. Textbooks are planned and designed by publication houses. Okay, there are hundreds of publication houses. There is Swan, there is Cambridge, there is Vikas Publication. There are hundreds of publication houses which print books for across all the boards. Okay, an ABC, for example, an ABC publication house. There, I don't know if there is one, so I am not really referring to one. If there is one, there a publication house. They could be publishing textbooks for SSC. They could be publishing textbooks for CBSE. They could be publishing textbooks for ICSE as well. Okay. So nobody stops a publication house for publishing books. That is their job. But as a school, I can choose which publication house I want to pick up and which books I like. Okay, as a school, we have the right to do that. Now, since I have been mentioning yesterday also with the NEP discussion and today again with the boards discussion, topics are put across in grades as per the age of the child and not specific to a board. So suppose you picked up a science textbook of a CBSE board, SSE board and an ICSE board. Okay, say a grade 2 textbook of all the 3 Indian boards. Have you ever done that? You should do it if you haven't. Just go to ABC Chowk here, Appa Balwan Chowk in Pune. I am from Pune, so I'll tell you that. And pick books. Tell the shopkeeper, the store, to give you science books of all the 3 boards. Now check the contents, the index. You will see the topics are similar. It's just that because they are different boards, they would have, second chapter would have become third and fourth chapter would have become fifth or something like that. Just the order will be jumbled, but the topics are going to be the same. Maybe the headings will differ, but when you open the contents inside, the information is the same. It's because the books are not made as per grade or the board, the books are made as per the age of the child. The education system believes that if the child is of this age, then this is what they need to know. So no matter which board they went to, no matter which publication house textbook you picked up, the information is going to be similar. Think about it. When your child is in 9th and 10th, one child is going to school A, ICSE school, and another child is going to school B, another ICSE school. These 2 schools, until the grade of 8, have been using 2 different textbooks for different subjects. But the moment it is 9th and 10th, can they have different textbooks? No, they can't. Because everybody has to study the same subject, same topics. Only then, when across India children are giving a CBSE examination or an ICSE examination, only then they can give, the board can issue a common exam paper, right? The board issues a common exam paper. The exam paper is not issued by the school in particular. The exam paper comes from the board. The schools don't define the question paper. The question paper comes from the board. So the board refers to a particular book, and that's the book that across all ICSE schools will be utilizing. If it's from CBSE, all schools across CBSE will be using the same book. This same book will be the rule only when they are in 9th and 10th, not before that. Until 8th, we have free hand to choose. I hope you're getting to understand what I'm trying to say. And that is why when a child goes to X coaching classes, PQR coaching classes, those coaching classes are able to pick up children from different boards, from different schools, and yet teach the same topic. I know of about 4 or 5 coaching classes which are here in Viman Nagar, and there are 5 children who are in the same group, 1 child from SSE and 2 children from CBSE, 2 children from ICSE. They are all going together to the same coaching classes and learning the same subject. Learning the same topics in math, learning the same topics in science. So what is our big fight? That this school or this board is better than another board. When it comes to coaching classes, the same coaching classes teaches the same topics across all boards. Isn't this a little logical for everyone to understand now? So the boards really did not matter and are not going to matter as well. Now, does board has an effect on international or future education? No. Boards do not have any particular effect on an international education or future education. Just because you study from one particular board, you're going to be given extra preference for a particular stream of line. There is nothing that defines it. No, there is not. What matters is if a child has understood the topic really well, and when the entrance exam comes to enter into that particular stream, if they can do that well. And that entrance exam they will crack well only if the concepts are clear. So when you will approach coaching classes for NET and JET, you will realize that they only do conceptual coaching. They do not sit and keep teaching them do this sum, do that sum. They clear their concepts so well, such that No matter what complicated the question is, if the child can logically understand the question, they will arrive at the answer. That's what JEE and NET coaching classes do. They teach conceptually. They correct the concepts of children which was never done all the way from 1 to 12. And that is why, in spite of giving a 12th board, side by side children go for JEE or NET classes as well. That's when they start to understand the concepts. Talk to any child who is doing their 11th, 12th and going for these JEE and NET classes. You will realize that they are learning better in their NET classes than their NE classes than their college or their school. Okay, so it is a wrong notion that one particular board favors your future and another particular board does not favor your future. There is nothing of that sort. Even if you studied in India from an IB board or an IGCSE board or an SSE board or an NIOS board, my future, my studies, my academics is not going to be defined by those boards. It ultimately boils down to the school from where you're studying, because the school's management decides how a classroom has to be executed. The boards cannot do that. The boards do not come inside the classrooms to do a micromanagement. They basically cannot, because there are huge number of schools. There are millions of classrooms that they will have to sit and check up. That's not possible. So they have given the school management, the school principals, the flag bearership that you need to do this with children in your school. Now, how much each school is going to be able to do that? How much the school is going to execute to the extent that every child is achieving their skill set entirely depends only on the school, and it has no bearing on the board. The board has a very beautiful philosophy, irrespective of whichever board that is. Boards cannot be blamed. Let me be very clear. Boards cannot be blamed. It's a very clear thing that boards have one and only one philosophy, that this has to be done in the class such that children are benefiting from it. That's a clear objective of any board. However, how the schools run it entirely depends upon the school's management. Hence, parents, I once again say, and I'm sure I'm going to end up saying this many more times in future as well, that boards do not matter. The only difference between boards, like I explained yesterday in the NEP discussion, is their evaluation pattern. So when you reach 9th and 10th, do not switch between boards, do not switch between schools, because 9th and 10th is like a twin classroom. Don't change at that time, because you're splitting twins. So don't do that. You never do that, right? So you need to let them be in that same school at that time, no matter which school you choose, no matter which board you choose. It just not make a difference for the child's future. Because think about it. Area of a rectangle does not change because you studied in an IB board or you studied in a NIOS board. Okay? The combination of the chemicals H2O does not change because you studied in an IGCSE or you studied in an ICSE, right? The chemistry elements table does not change whether you studied in Canada or you studied in Sri Lanka. It does not change. The information that's there in the books, the fact does not change because you studied from a different board. And ultimately, when you are going to get into the real world, the fact is what that matters, right? The meaning of a preposition, how you arrive at the 5 different nouns that you have, the meaning of an abstract noun, the kinds of speeches that you have, the logic behind them do not change because you studied in a different board. Those logics remain the same. What matters is how that teacher in the classroom put it across to the child. What matters is how much importance the management of that school gave for the teachers to ensure that the chapters are not just completed for the sake of completing the syllabus, but made sure that the chapters are through and through into the child before they went on to the next topic. On this, I'll go a little out of way from the boards. I recently had a discussion with a very senior person from an IGCSE school. I have not taken his permission at the moment, but hence I cannot mention his name. But he had mentioned something very beautiful to me, that classroom entirely depends on the child, on the teacher. Okay, so how the child is being taught is the relationship between the teacher and the child. Correct? That is not going to change. The teachers might change year on year, but how the classrooms have to be done will be the teacher's role based on how much leverage the management gives to the school. Okay. Now the issue that has happened, this was happening pre-COVID also. However, post-COVID, this has become very, very evident. It is very clearly put across. And although I did not have a particular term for it, this gentleman, this sir put it across for me very clearly. And he said, schools are rushing through the subjects, the chapters so fast that nobody cares whether the child understood the foundation. Okay, when you are doing a multiplication or a division sum in the grade 3, the next level will be in grade 4 and the level after that will be in grade 5 and 6. When grade 3 was taken lightly and this concept never got cleared, the mastery model is what he told me about. When this topic never got cleared, the child casually went into grade 4. Now slightly struggled when he went to grade 4, but it still didn't affect his marks. When he went to grade 5, the struggle from 4 moved on further and added on in grade 5 and made it a serious struggle. Now parents are wondering, if the teacher is teaching everybody equally, then why is only my child not able to understand? But you know what happened? The child wasn't understanding from the foundation times, but nobody paid attention to it at that time. Now what happened? The child is being expected to understand something at a very senior level when the foundation itself is not strong. How is that going to work? That's not easy at all. Now when the child is going to go for tuitions for that particular subject, the teacher is not going to go 2 years back and start from the basics. The teacher is just going to keep on harping what had to be done in that grade. But the child is suffering somewhere inside because of something that went wrong a few years in the past. So if your child is having a struggle with a concept, or you are aware that the school does not clear concepts, or if you are aware that in particular this particular topic's concept is not getting cleared for my child, please approach the school. You are the parent, you have the right to do that. Having said that, when you are communicating with schools, please remember your child is not the only one in that school. Okay? There are hundreds of other children in that school. So when you are going to speak to people in the school, please have a reasonable, decent decorum. Wait for the school to respond. Follow the right procedure to approach people in the school. Don't think that just because you're paying, you have all the whims and fancies to approach the school and talk any rubbish that you can. Do not do that. That doesn't show good on your own personality. Somewhere it will reflect on the child as well. Okay? So if you think that something is not going right, use the right mediums, use the right channel to approach the school. And really doesn't matter which board your child is studying in. Remember, the concepts don't change. 2 plus 2 will remain 4 whether your child studies in NIOS or your child studies in IB. Okay? Preposition will remain preposition whether your child studied in SSC or your child studied in IGCSE. Those basic rules are not going to change. The earth will remain the same format whether you studied in a CBSE school or you studied as a homeschooler. It really does not matter. The books are going to give certain information. But the school will be the defining factor when it comes to making sure that education is put across correctly. I'm repeating myself. The entire responsibility remains on the school. The boards are doing a beautiful job. They are doing the reasonable amount of management that they need to between the schools. The NEP is going to be bringing in a lot of streamlining that is going to start from probably the next year. Let's hope for the best. But whichever school you send your child to, no matter what board that is, or even if it is a no board school, make sure your child is learning such that it is effective. It is once learnt and stuck in here for a long time. It is not supposed to be learnt every year. अच्छा ये chapter ना अगले साल फिर से आएगा. At that time we will see if it is going to be done correctly. No, you are making a big mistake. Don't do that. अगर ये chapter इस साल आया है, उसे इसी साल concept समझ के खत्म करना है. उसको next year के लिए carry forward नहीं करना है. Okay? Boards are mediums for education. Boards are mediums of examination. They have their own evaluation pattern. So parents, does not matter which board you choose. What matters is how your child is fitting into that school that they are going to, and if the school is giving the due to the child based on what you have as an expectation at the time of admission. Thank you very much for viewing my scene tonight. I really appreciate all people who have been taking time to sit here and listen me out. You have any questions, you can definitely ask me. I here want to particularly appreciate our school's principal, Dr. Padma Shri Ballal. She has been a leader for the kind of insights that we carry. She has also been excellent person to communicate with. Whenever parents want to know about boards or education, you can reach out to her. She is also a highly experienced person when it comes to education. She has also taught her own children for the 10th board, so she knows exactly the effort that goes into it. She has experience of doing teachers training. She also has an experience of working in different boards. Please do reach out to her. You can reach out to me as well. Together we are a team. We need to make sure that the future generation is not having much struggle when they come into the real world. Let's be together for our children. All the best. Wish you a wonderful Diwali. Have a safe Diwali. Enjoy yourself. And you have anything to do with children, education, counseling, we are here. Team Head Over Heels is here. Reach out to us. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful night.